color, I just wasn't aware of it, and that other persons of color may not have been aware that this even existed. And so I really appreciated just being able to have the opportunity to recruit within that industry, and then being able to form very strong networks, and just the mentors along the way, the colleagues that I came to know that really helped to shape my interest even in that field, although I don't work in that directly. And I have to say that there's just a wide range of opportunities within the financial services industry and investment banking, and it's there. And there's certainly a lot of talented people that ought to know more about these opportunities, because just as qualified as the next person who's already kind of been in that industry. So I wish I had known about it. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have been a recruiter. Maybe I would have taken that path into the investment space itself. But I just think that there's a world of opportunities within that space.
Craig, I'll say, because we're at Morgan today, I'll say maybe not coming into my particular organization. I've been in 2 financial services organizations in my career for the last 14 years. And I would say one thing I didn't realize was how white this industry is. And so, you know, I think you brought us together to give that real, like, around the dinner table conversation, and things that we wish people had told us when we were coming up. And I would say, so, you know, Morgan students talking to you, like, this industry is very white. And that's not, it's, you know, not to get into how we got here and all that. I think we understand that, but the lesson to you is, as smart as you are, there are going to be some other things you have to do to move ahead. And as you can see, companies are struggling with that right now, and they're trying to figure it out. So, you know, hopefully you're talking to those of us on this panel, other people in your network, mentors, advisors, your parents, and thinking about when you get here, how do you quickly overcome the obstacles that are there, because they are still there, and they will be there for a while, even though you have people on the call who are trying to break those obstacles down. You have to be very mindful of that in this particular industry.
Yeah, Lenny here. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Apologies, I'm having some massive technical issues. I missed the part about the Standard Charter, so I just want to do that real quick. So Standard Charter, like I said, I've been here 2 years. They are a large investment bank, which its headquarters can be debated whether it's in Asia or it's in London. They're based on the London Stock Exchange, but their footprints, their massive footprints are in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and they're trying to grow their U.S. presence, which is why I've been here a couple of years. So it's a very unique place to kind of start a career, given they are in all of the hot spots of conversation in terms of markets that are considered frontier and still have a little bit of an investment opportunity, and in the heart of the U.S.-China debate. And just to piggyback off what my brother said on something that I had to learn throughout this process of being on the banking side and in the market side, is how alone you can feel at times in this industry. It is extremely white, and trading floors, if people haven't seen one, it is a very, 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 very white male lacrosse Ivy League type of background. And if you aren't used to that, it will be a culture shock. Coming from Morehouse into banking was an absolute culture shock. Unfortunately, going from banking into sales and trading, I did the grad school component, so I was used to having more conversations with white people. But it is a culture shock when you first leave Morgan in the comforts of your HBCU, and you go into whatever whatever role you are, and you become one of the only. It is a eye-opening experience, and it takes a lot to survive it. So the folks on this call who have survived, you know, we all deserve hugs and applause, and because it's a surmountable task to have a 10, 15-year plus career in this field.
So that's a great transition to another question. As a person of color in your organization, do you feel your opinion is valued? And if so, what kind of resources do your organization have in place to support you as a person of color? Did you want to go, Jay? Yeah.
I could, you know, I guess I'll.
I see you unmuted yourself.
Yeah. I was just, all right. So I'll give you my corporate answer, and then I'll give you just context around that, I think, in light of what was said, right? So I got to tell you, we have an associate's program. I can say that SCI has a D&I program. And, you know, to the firm's credit, I think that leadership is really empowering that group to try to create space for conversations. And I think that there's an awareness that there needs to be change, right? If you look at SCI, when I was actually interviewing, I went to the corporate website. I went through all the, you know, who are we slides and pictures and stuff. And there was one person of color, and he was an Indian gentleman. So not kind of traditional US person of color. It's like the expanded definition that we now sort of espouse. So I think to the point that's been made earlier, you know, I was at a hedge fund conference in the earlier part of my career. There were 6 Black people there who weren't sort of staff for the hotel. And I knew 4 of them because they were Wharton alums who I saw on a fairly regular basis at an annual conference. So it is kind of a lonely place. I think that, and I think Lenny alluded to it earlier, and if you guys haven't heard this, I don't know if it's still passed down, but you have to work twice as hard to be considered equal. And so I think you're constantly trying to prove yourself and excel. I think the more senior you become and the more credibility you build, there's space for you to provide input. But it's tenuous, you know, the room for error is very thin. So you need to be excellent every day. You know, there are no days off, and recognize that you represent an entire people group. People don't evaluate you as the person. They're evaluating Black people when they engage with you. And so you got to kind of carry that banner, right? And so if you're excellent every day, I think that in particular in this context and environment, there's space being created for conversations, you know, but recognize that power is given, it's not taken. And you're coming into an environment that's not really designed with you in mind. And it's going to take time for that to change. It's just the reality of kind of this industry.
I share the same sentiments. I guess I could give the corporate answer as well. So in terms of having a diverse workforce, that is important to the organization. And we do have several committees, several groups, as well as different types of programs that's related to D&I work, ensuring that as diverse folks come into the organization, that they feel that they're well networked, that they feel that they are heard, that we're ensuring that from a career perspective, there's a defined career pathways for them to take. What I will say is that, have we lacked in a lot of areas? Absolutely. And I think we're in a place right now as a firm where we're all aware of that, especially in the climate that we're living in. And it's something that just, it's not going to go unnoticed. And so with that said, we've been having very open and transparent conversation as a whole. So as a whole, from a firm perspective, and then drilling that down even to team perspective. And so what I am especially proud of is when I think about the people of color that are within our organization, they have voiced openly their concerns, the challenges, being in a white male dominated industry. And they've also talked about, well, what sort of reformation that we should be really thinking about as an organization. And so because they have been allowed, or we've been allowed that platform to be able to express that honestly and say, okay, here's where we're doing some things that are good. And here's where, you know what, we're behind the 8 ball, or we haven't even made any sort of traction towards it. And so what do we do now? Now that we are, I don't want to say just aware of it, but now that we're willing to do something about it, what do we do? And so because these conversations are happening, I know that T-Row has made a huge commitment around looking at our diversity slate, looking at how do we even, go to market, how do we recruit individuals, and then tying that even with specific expectations. Here's where we need to be. When we look at ourselves in 2021, when we look at ourselves in 2025, 10 years out, here's where we need to be as an organization, both from a talent perspective and then even just from an optics perspective. We need to look different as an organization. And so we recognize that there's challenge with that, but it's also how are we tying that back even to the communities and investing in people of color? Are we reaching out as broadly as we should be from early on to maybe again going back to some of our stories? I know my personal story of not necessarily knowing that this industry was even here, or how to enter this industry. What are we doing to tie that again back into the community and really think about that next generation, so that again the organization looks very, very different, and then not just looks different, but that people of color really feel as though that they're empowered when they're a part of us, and that they are leaders sitting at the table. They are heading up business units just as much as their white counterparts are doing that. And so from that perspective, I do think that T-Row has made that shift to allow people's voice to be heard, and to now actually put steps and measures in place to actually do something about it, and not just, oh, we're aware of it, but then we're not necessarily putting any sort of action item behind the things that we're aware of.
Hey, Craig, I'll jump in, but it looks like there was a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Leonard. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw this in there too. I agree with everybody. The Standard Charter. I'll start with J.P. Morgan. So the concept of diversity is truly an American. It's truly an American thing, right? In working for J.P. Morgan for the first 8 years of my career, they had the chief diversity officer. They had supporting networks for recruiting. They had everything that you could roll out to make you feel comfortable. Did it work? It's to be judged. Standard, you get to these international banks. So I said I worked at Deutsche, Credit Suisse, and now Standard Chartered. Diversity to them, if you walk on their trading floor in London and you say, Standard Chartered is not diverse, they go, what are you talking about? We got 3 guys from the Middle East. We got a guy from Nigeria. We got 3 guys from Asia. We've got some people from the East. We got from Eastern Europe. We are massively diverse, right? And to a certain degree, they're right. But what they fail to realize is that in the U.S., where we don't get the same looks at seats, and to a certain degree in the U.K. as well, they're going through the same kind of plight to have equal treatment and equal opportunities. But for the U.S., it is really a struggle to get some of these international institutions to understand what it means to be the only person of color in North America working at your firm and feeling alone and feeling like you have to work twice as hard to achieve the same results and the same progression in your career. So there are resources definitely at Standard Chartered, and George Floyd has only kicked that into ultra high gear. But be cautious when you work at some of these firms, and I'm running into the challenge now, which is why I'm pushing to talk to the Morgan States of the world, to tell them, like, you're sitting there trying to find the top Black talent at the Ivy Leagues. Well, everybody's trying to find the top Black talent at the Ivy Leagues. You're looking for a needle in a haystack. Why not look for a needle in a needle stack? So it's, these conversations, there are resources being put, but it's reactionary, and folks like us on this call have to be on the offensive to make sure that we're just not in a reactionary seat, which is where we've had to be for so long, because it's these institutions have been kind of going along with their plan, and looking for diverse talent at all the top tier universities and schools, which is not a negative. It's just there are other avenues to find talent.
I love that statement. A needle in a needle stack. So we have a question from the audience. How frequently does your organization discuss diversity? And with doing so, do you feel a sense of being neglected towards African Americans?
Hey, Craig, I'll jump in on that one, because I saw it up there and it actually tied into the answer I was going to give you for whether I feel like I'm heard at my organization is the same answer for this. And so I feel like I'm fortunate that yes, I'm at and I'll add in there, everyone spoke so well on this. And we hate to harp on it, but we can't escape it. It's white, it's male, heterosexual, and it's Christian, right? And so the reason why I mention those is because of an outcome that we experience because we're having these conversations at my firm. And so yes, to the students' question, and to your question, I do feel like I'm heard. I'm fortunate. My organization, we talk about race every day in every room. Are we perfect? But no, by no means. But is it a live conversation for us? Yes. And I was a part of one of the groups that pushed that. And so how do we do that? Well, like many organizations, we have these affinity groups. So it's people who share something in common coming together to advance and make sure that group is usually it's an underrepresented group, and that their interests and their concerns are heard. So some companies call them employee resource groups, others call them affinity groups. At Brown Advisory, we call them colleague resource groups, because we are all colleagues, not coworkers. And so, so I'm one of the leads of the Black and Hispanic colleague resource group. And our role, we look at ourselves as advisors to the firm, holding the firm accountable for things that are important to us. And so what we've done over the last 3 years that we've been in existence is push the firm, and really to make sure that in every conversation that we're talking about inclusion, and making sure that we're included and that other groups are included too. So it's happening, and I think that's the lesson there, is that explore the culture of any organization you plan to join, whether it's work, volunteer, professional association. Dig into the culture and make sure that they are willing to listen to you. Second point, the outcomes of that, for example, and I mentioned how this one demographic that dominates this world is, of course, heterosexual. So our LGBTQ plus colleague resource group also attacks the policy of our firm and address that, whatever side of the argument you fall on, that's not the point here today. The point is that our firm listened to them and said, okay, if you all feel like our bathroom should be accessible to both genders, then we're going to do that. And our firm actually did that. We lost employees. People left the firm because they disagreed with that. And that's fine. Like this doesn't, to me, I respect everyone's opinion. The point there is that that's how far our firm went to listen to the needs of groups, is to say, hey, if you think this bathroom should be accessible to whatever gender you believe you are, then use it. And we're going to post that sign on every restroom in our building, in all of our buildings around the world, that you are allowed to choose which restroom you want to use based on how you identify. So, you know, for me, that just happened last year. And for me, that was awesome to have a company say that, you know, we're really listening to our people on topics like that. Last thing I'll say is, you know, like many organizations, we are struggling with what happened this year, the social injustice and the racial inequity that's going on in the world. And so, you know, I'm part of a justice task force at my firm that is focused on, we're doing stuff for Black people at the firm. You know, yes, Asian people are people of color. Yes, Indian people are people of color. But right now, we got to do something for the Black people. And so, to have my CEO chairing that task force to say, what can we do for Black people in this industry at this firm today, I think is a powerful message that he is sending to this white, male-dominated, heterosexual Christian organization that, you know, that we got to do better. So, so that's my 2 cents on what hopefully you're thinking about before you join an organization, is, are they going to listen to you?
I think it was Jay that mentioned, as a Black person, you must be better than everyone else. You must work twice as hard. So what skills as a student should I possess when applying to work at any of these organizations? Is there, go ahead.
Yeah, I did say, I mean, it was mentioned in a couple of contexts, and I'll be brief. I'll just say generally, whatever you think your natural gifts and talents are, one of the questions I ask people is, you know, if money weren't a constraint, what would you do for free? Like, and that's probably a good place to kind of start from and maybe expand out from. And then you kind of come back to the real world where money is a constraint, and then you sort of begin to make choices. I think if I were to sort of try to start at a very high level, I think critical thinking is important, no matter where you apply that. If it's analytical, if it's in more, you know, soft domains like marketing or whatever, the ability to problem solve and to contextualize scenarios based on facts at hand and good judgment, I think is critically important. And that's something that you develop over the course of your career. But I think you can start early by being intentional about it. I think increasingly, as the world moves towards more data-driven, you know, pick the sector, industry, whatever it may be, you need some degree of analytical ability. That doesn't mean you have to be a math whiz. It does mean that you need to be able to sort of understand the process of analysis and deductive reasoning using fact. The last piece, just generally, you know, so growing up, I'm an 80s baby, quite literally. You know, it was reading, writing, and arithmetic, roughly, and then kind of math and science was the focus. It's funny how things have come full circle. I'd say I think you need to be fluent in technology at some level. You don't have to be a coder necessarily, although I would advocate that you get some sort of coding skill. But you definitely want to understand technology, and if you can, pick up something like a Python or simple language so that you can just understand the process for problem solving using binary or coding as the method for doing so. And then I think from there, it's really about your talent and where you sort of want to apply yourself. There are any number of skills that you can build, but I'll hand it over to someone else to talk maybe about specifics beyond those.
Yeah, so I'll jump in for that. Everything Jay said is exactly what we look for to Python, R, and the data analytics piece. The other thing I would add, maybe more so from a soft skills perspective, is the interpersonal skills. I think that goes a long way, especially because it's a client service-based business. And not even just from an external client perspective, but just even thinking internally. Even your colleagues, they are your clients as well, and how you interact with them in both a team setting, or even if certain projects, there may be a matrix environment within that project. And so just being able to work with people at all levels goes a long way. And then the openness to constructive feedback. not looking at it as a negative, but rather taking in that information, really assessing areas where you would need to develop, and then making all of the necessary adjustments so that you can continue to emerge as a even more qualified professional. And so it takes a lot of that. And sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow, especially if you're struggling in certain areas. But just trying to remember from a short-term and long-term perspective, where will that put me if I were to work on some of the key things that may have been mentioned to me as far as areas of development.
Thank you. So my next question is, what did you major in in undergrad? I know you spoke about that. And how does that transition to your position now? Just because we have such a variety of different majors inside at this event today.
I'll take, I'm going to jump right into. So I actually majored in psychology, and it definitely translates into what I do now, because I would say just being able to study behaviors, behaviors in people. It's what I do. I talk to people all day long. And so just being able to, I see that it's helped me to connect the dots, especially when I'm recruiting someone for particular positions. Oftentimes I meet candidates who may not necessarily be able to convey exactly what they want, because sometimes they don't know. But just hearing certain key words helps me to really look at the words that they mentioned, and then their behavior, as well as just some experiences that they may have had. And then I, on the back end, using that, am able to align that with opportunities that we have within our firm and wherever else I've worked at. And so I've always been able to use that to my advantage, and really be able to have a more broad conversation with candidates that I meet, and expose them even to certain areas that they may not have even thought about. And it ends up working out really well for them. And so I definitely think that studying psychology really played well in my field of HR.
So Craig, I what I get a lot of times is I was an English major at Morgan, then I got a master's in criminal justice, and then went to law school. And so none of that really screams out investment professional. But you know, I'll say very quickly that all of that taught me two critical things, and it ties back to your last question about the skills. I think, of course, you need the technical piece for what we do, absolutely, but that can be taught to you along your career. What is hard, what is a little more challenging to pick up along the way is critical thinking and analysis, and then communication. So the best thing you can do right now is assess, you know, your ability to be a critical thinker, problem solve, as Jay said earlier, and then how do you communicate that? Can you clearly make an argument, or ask some really good questions? I know in my organization, what my leadership appreciates more is when you ask some really tough questions that they can't answer, because then it's like, okay, now you've figured out a way to make our business better. We strive on, why do we do this? If the answer is we don't know why we do this, or it's because this is the way we've always done it, then that's a problem, and that's a blind spot, and that's an opportunity for us to make ourselves better. So the advice to everyone here is think about how you are analyzing problems, how you're coming up with solutions, and then how you're able to communicate that to anyone in your community that you either work with, study with, or anything like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with David. He's spot on problem solving, and all of this can eventually be taught to you, no matter what path you take in in investments or finance. It can all be taught to you, and you just have to, you know, kind of put your head down and kind of grin and bear it. I started off, I was your atypical finance guy. Went to Morehouse, wanted to do finance, wanted to learn how money moves, the economy. I was an econ junkie, so I did finance with a minor in economics. Did banking. Like, I was, on paper, I look like a white guy. I did all the things that you should do to be able to get into banking, right? I was focused and I knew what I wanted. I got there and I had shell shock and culture shock because I realized that, you know, I wasn't training in the same gyms of finance that these guys were training in, right? So that's how I like to put it. But that said, I still came with a different hustle than what they had. So when they, you know, got something, understood a problem or in training that may have taken me an extra 2 or 3 hours to get, you know, but we still got to the same answer and solution. So don't be afraid to work extra hard. It's the nature of the game. Sometimes we just aren't equipped with the same gym equipment that some of these folks have, and it just means we got to work out a little bit more. And then going to grad school, I knew I wanted to kill all quantitative questions and interviewing going forward. So I got my master's degree in analytic finance and econometrics. That sounds fancy. It basically just means a lot of statistics, which is when people ask me what classes would I advise people to take if they want to get into kind of global market sales and trading, investments, I always say statistics and history. And you go, why history? Because all of these industries and markets are just about taking past frameworks, past economic frameworks, past finance frameworks, and trying to forecast them into the future. And the more you know about global history, the more you're able to say, okay, this is what happened in 1970s Russia crisis and such, and you can kind of forecast your thought process. Or if you lived through the financial crisis in 2000s, you kind of have a framework on how things could react in zero interest rates now. So I say statistics and history are great classes to kind of start with. And just to kind of touch back on a point that I missed to in on about why we can be successful in this business is because of people like us on this call who are pushing the agenda, the industry is becoming a little bit more diverse. You know, year by year, it becomes a little bit more diverse and more people of color are getting seats. That said, at Standard Charter, they have the unique opportunity, like I said, we're a massive bank in the Middle East and Africa. So I've done trades with my African trading counterparts. For the first time in their career, they've traded with a Black American. So we do these little cyber high five African diaspora high fives on telephone calls because it is it's a really good feeling to be able to know that there's a person of color on the other end globally. So these international firms are great to work for, especially if they have a footprint in some unique places where, like I said, the concept of diversity means different things.
Hey everyone, I've got to skip, so I really apologize. But Craig has a public service announcement for Brown Advisory to answer the question about the internships. Yes, we did virtual this summer. We just opened our application for next summer. So Craig, I'm gonna turn it over to you to tell everyone where to apply, and I welcome meeting with virtually, in person, or phone call with any of the students who are here today that want to talk more about Brown Advisory. So thank you everyone, and have a great week.
Thank you so much, David, for your time.
Okay, all right, I'll see you soon.
Okay, so while we're transitioning to internships, so Brown Advisory has their internship posted on eBear, and as well as all the other organizations. However, could you mention the types of internships that you're currently hosting, and what majors are you looking for, based on just the audience in the room? And I do notice that we do have one of the recruiters as well So if you want to just post it in the group, in the chat box to everyone, we'll greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll do that right now, actually. I'm going to post the link to all of our summer internships. So they're all posted there. We have internships for 2021 within investments, accounting, corporate finance, global technology, global investment operations, sales, and marketing. And in terms of background, we look for people with who are majoring in either finance, computer science, engineering, math, majors, econ majors, even supply chain management major, marketing communications. It's a wide variety. Jay had mentioned in terms of like the technical piece, like that's always good if people take some computer science courses, just because it does come in handy, regardless of which side of the business you're in. So that's certainly something advisable. Yeah, and I'll also leave my contact information. If anyone has any further questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You see my name posted on there in Zoom. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, send me a LinkedIn invite. I do get back to people. I'm all about connecting and ensuring that you're having the right conversations. And if you have questions about your resume, whether or not it could fit in any one of these, just don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, I'll just add, SCI will be posting internships on the job board in January, and there's recruiting that'll happen for our associates program for graduates graduating between December 2020 and June 2021. So, you know, if you're looking for an internship or looking for a full-time role, definitely apply. As I said earlier, you know, the company is putting forth an effort to try to engage and really, and I'll call it diversify broadly. And so, you know, I encourage you all to apply. If you want, reach out to me on LinkedIn, but when you do, just please reference that you're a Morgan student, so I know, because I get all kind of random LinkedIn requests, and it's not Facebook, so I just, you know, but yeah, you know, you guys, we take all kinds of majors. There are people who have history, psychology, you know, traditional liberal arts background, hardcore finance, math, computer science backgrounds that come into the associates program and the internship program. For the internship, I believe you do a rotation. Not 100% sure. You may just kind of get posted in one unit. For the associates program, I know you do a rotation, and we've had a lot of great candidates come through that. So, you know, I encourage you to reach out and apply, and we may get a chance to work together.
To mention, oh, sorry, Lenny.
You go ahead.
I forgot to mention, we also do have rotational programs, but that's for full-time. So anyone who's graduating either December of this year or May of 2021, there's two types of program. One is an investment fellowship program. It's 4 rotations, 6 months each, which within different types of investment teams. And then the other one is an investment product analysis and communication. So that one is not as quant focused as the investment fellowship. It's much softer. There is a rotation within investments, but then there's a rotation within our sales team, our product division, as well as our distribution side. So anyone who has like a marketing major, communications background, or even just liberal arts could certainly be applicable for that other rotation program. And that's also posted on our website. So that link that I sent, it's the link for the internships. But if you just click on the workday itself, or the T-Row logo, like the banner, it can take you back to the main career page, and you can just look through. You could type in rotation and you'll see it come up. And it's also posted on eBear.
Again, just from Standard Charter standpoint, the internship is, we have internships in all fields that you can be interested in commercial banking, financial markets, transaction banking, retail banking. There are global internships. You can apply if you plan to be in the Middle East. We all kind of go through the same process via the website. I posted the link, but it's 10 weeks. You get a good breadth of what the firm can do in the respective fields. I would be in the financial markets realm. So it's a really well organized internship, and we have bumped up. We're one of the few investment banks, which I happily note that we are increasing our internship numbers from, I think we had 15 to 25. So, and that's the Americas. So if you're, I will say, and having worked for, JP Morgan, where their internship class is 250 and they're looking to take maybe 100, Standard Chartered has a different feel to where it's smaller and more intimate, and they look to hire everybody that they take on as interns, right? Versus, kind of the JP Morgan Goldman model of making everybody scratch, claw, bite for one of the few remaining spots, which works, but it's just a different feel. Degrees needed or concentrations needed. It's really not. We've taken people from history majors to English to psychology. Of course, finance helps, but it's not a requirement. When you do apply online, there is an examination. This is new to me. I haven't been here a couple of years. There's a examination. There are tutorials and study materials to help you, but you have to pass a series of 3 exams, and then you're able to then you move to the next steps of being on for a virtual interview. So that's kind of the process. Definitely feel free to reach out to me via email, and I can help prep or give you insight into the different fields and talk about the different areas of the bank and what they kind of do. And so happy to help. Happy to help Morgan State get into Standard Charter.
And I wanted to mention that every organization that's been represented today doesn't just have the financial or the information systems or opportunities. They have specific opportunities for every specific major, and it's all about applying and being able to connect with them for your particular desire. And also, a student asked about virtual internships and virtual full-time employment. Is your organization currently hosting virtual internships for the fall, for the summer? It may be too early for you to know this, for you to provide the information. But if you can't provide it, just provide an overview of this past summer internship.
Sure. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we did host a virtual summer internship. We onboarded about 81 interns altogether. And obviously with COVID, it was very unexpected for all of us. And typically our internships are 10 weeks long. And what we did was we shortened it to 7 weeks, but nonetheless, it was a full-time internship because we didn't want to, for students to miss out on the opportunities, the learning experience, and just being able to come to know who T-Row is. And they were so excited about their internship. And so we just adjusted with what was going on. And quite frankly, we don't know where we'll be next year. I can say that right now as an organization, we are working remotely through the end of this year, and providing that things get better, then we'll obviously set transitions in place for people to return back into the office. But if not, we will carry on virtually. And If need be, the summer internship for 2021 will be virtual. The only difference is that we will not shorten the program. If anything, it'll either be 10 to 12 weeks, since we know what that's like because of what we had done this year. We'll be very, very well prepared for 2021.
Yeah, I'll say we did do virtual internships. I actually had a chance to engage with some of the interns that worked in our sales organization within our business unit. And like Hermione said, we're slated to return in October. But as a practical matter, the company has signaled that, we'll probably come back in January, and they've tended towards what we see a lot of other firms who are, I think, taking a more conservative approach, kind of family first, health first approach. So we could be out as long as July. We've been really flexible. So I'd say, I think you will see, if the need is there, virtual internships and obviously virtual full-time hiring as well.
Yes, we also had virtual interns last year. We had 13 in the Americas, and we took all 13, which was great. They haven't given us any guidance on if next year will be virtual as well, but they do a very, very good job of organizing the program. They shortened it from the 10 weeks and made it 7 weeks similarly. And they do a great job of keeping it fun and informative and kind of rigorous. They had a virtual talent show with all the global interns across the bank, which was kind of unique. People did their talents on virtual, then they kind of did a virtual, it had a lot of virtual discussions and brought in panelists from inside and outside the bank. So they did a really, really good job of keeping it involved and making you feel like you were still involved on the floor, on your respective area of the firm. So the goal is, I think, to have it be in person, but who knows? I'd say we are prepared for either way, and we have if anything from last year's numbers, we do a good job of kind of converting who we take on board.
All right. So it is now 12 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up the event. I want to thank our panelists for attending. I also want to thank the two student organizations that assisted with promoting the event and developing it, the Finance Club and AITP. Thank you, everyone, and you have a good day.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everybody.